Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, children of all ages, it's that time of the week, that time of the night, that time to get things rolling. Get your cocktails ready because the countdown is about to begin.
A little ordinary? Is it lacking something awesome? Well, head out to your local liquor store and pick up something extraordinary. Grab a bottle of Old Humble Straight Whiskey or Old Humble Special Reserve. They're clean, smooth, easy drinking whiskeys that taste the way whiskey should taste. From humble beginnings to an extraordinary finish, Old Humble whiskeys are what your bar needs today. Walk tall, be awesome, and drink humble. Old Humble Straight Whiskey and Old Humble Special Reserve. Get yours today.
Whoops. I was out looking for a bottle of whiskey, and I forgot to pay attention to the screen. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, I am the Old Humble Guy. This is the Old Humble Distilling Company's Wednesday Whiskey Happy Hour, and I am drinking Boomtown Bourbon, the number onest, bestest, delightfulestest whiskey in all the land. Take our opening shot. Cheers to all of you fine folks. May the ground always rise up to meet your feet and the wind always beat your back. Sláinte. That, my friends, is a wonderful opening shot. God damn, that's a good whiskey. So, where have I been the last 2 or 3 weeks? I'll tell you where I've been the last 2 or 3 weeks. I've been working in a fireworks stand. And I got out of the fireworks stand on July 4th, which was a Tuesday. And those of you who know how to read a calendar know that a Tuesday is not a Wednesday. And I could have done a show last Wednesday, but you know what I did instead? Not a show. I was exhausted. I had stomach cramps. I had gastric issues. I could go into all the gory, gooey, icky details, but I don't think y'all want to know all about that. So what I did instead of doing a show last Wednesday was not a show last Wednesday, which means I went 2 full weeks without a show. I hope y'all can find it in your loving hearts to forgive me. But in the meantime, what has happened? Well, we have launched our online website where you can go and buy our delicious whiskey online. It's pinned up there in the comments. You can see it, but I can also open up. Where can I find? Which one do I have the website on? I think it's this one. Let's see here. This one? Yeah, I think that's it. oldhumbledistilling.com. Shop online. There it is. Let me open that window up so y'all can see it. Where is it? There it is. Open it up. There it is. Looky there. Old Humble Distilling Online. What's it say? Now available in 34 states. Which 34 states, you ask? Well, it's got Washington, California, Nevada, Arizona, New Mexico. What is that? Wyoming? Colorado. Yeah, Colorado, Wyoming, Idaho, Iowa. Neither one of the Dakotas because they both suck. But we've got Montana, Wyoming, Colorado, New Mexico, Texas, Oklahoma, Nebraska, Minnesota, Iowa, Wisconsin, Illinois, Missouri, Arkansas, Louisiana. What else we got? Alabama, but not Mississippi, Georgia, or Tennessee. We got Florida, South Carolina, North Carolina, both of the Carolinas. How about that? Pretty much most of New England, it looks like, except for Vermont and Massachusetts, and it looks like Rhode Island as well. So there you go. Those are the 34 states where you can find us. And if I scroll down, you can see all you got to do is click on the little link right there. It says add it to the cart, and boom, it adds it to the cart right there and opens up the cart right here. It's beautiful. It's an absolutely beautiful thing. And if you make it two bottles. Of course, now my computer picks the time to catch up the catch, rather. We'll come back to that in just a second. We'll let it do its thing. I'll come back to it when it's active. I'll show you. I'll put the 2 bottles in there, and I'll put the discount code so y'all can see firsthand. Here it comes. Y'all can see firsthand the discount code to knock out the shipping. Here it goes. Our bourbon is $60 a bottle. Let's add that. Let's add two bottles to the cart. It does charge tax. There's nothing I can do about that. Because we do live in a place that charges tax, sales tax on alcohol. Quantity. All right, it's still thinking. We'll come right back to it. It's fine. It's fine. We'll come right back to it. I'm going to shrink that window, and it's going to go right over here. So when it comes time to be able to do it, I'll know that I can do it. No problem. So yeah, there's the website right there, and it is available in your state, both the Carolinas, probably your state. There's 34 states that it's available in, so that's the odds are in your favor that it is actually available in your state. Can I like fix my damn hat? It is seriously canted to the wrong direction. There we go. That's better. Yeah, and the only reason it's not working right now, why it's not fully updated right now, is because my computer is streaming out and rendering video here and rendering video there. There it goes. And it's doing all the things. So if I want 2 bottles, it's going to jump that price up to $120. And then when I go to check out, it's going to have tax on there. There it goes. 2 bottles. It's going to update everything in just a second. Oh, 3 bottles. That's even better. We'll do 3 bottles. That's fine. We'll get the shipping removed on those 3 bottles. Actually, I'm going to have to put in my address and all that shit. I don't want to show you all that. I'm going to have to close that out. I'm going to have to hide the screen while I do all that. That'll be fine. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. So what else have I been doing the last 3 weeks? Well, glad you asked, because the last 3 weeks I've been a busy beaver. Continue. Check out. So I've scheduled up my road show for August and September. I'll be traveling pretty much all over the state of Texas, from Dallas to San Antonio to Austin, all the way down to Corpus Christi. I've got 20 tastings over the course of 60 days. I would do it in less time, but you know, I only have so many days that they'll give me to do the tasting. Okay, so I've got the shipping calculated. Standard ground. Oh, let's show the screen here. Boop. Standard ground is $18. Yeah. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to show that cart summary, and I'm going to put in my discount code of make it 2. See that code? See that discount? See that shipping right there? We're going to turn it off. Now it's free. Free shipping. Free shipping with discount code make it 2. And that's how easy it is. Free shipping with discount code make it 2. I'm going to leave these three bottles there so that somebody else can buy them. Y'all don't need me to buy my own whiskey. Y'all need to buy my whiskey. That's what it's there for. So y'all can do that. Make it two. Make it two, and then you get free shipping. That's how it works. Okay, so what else are we doing? The road show going all over Texas in late July or late August and early September. The road show that we currently have in effect um, is ongoing. We got two more dates this Saturday, and then we have two appearances on Friday and Saturday at the end of the month, where we are at a local cigar shop and the Humble Library, and it is going to be super fun. And in between those two dates, I'm going on a family vacation, so there, I do get to spend time with my family every once in a while. So, I'm curious what you folks have been up to. Y'all, let me know. Get on in the comments and let me know. I'll read all the comments when we go into the open forum in about 20 minutes after we talk about the topic du jour. The topic du jour being what is the topic today? What is the topic today? I forgot. Oh, zombie apocalypse. That's right. I do a lot of. I schedule one show a week, but I put in my notebook a bunch of show ideas, and I had like 4 or 5 different ideas for the show tonight. One of them being the difference between communism and socialism, which I was going to do a few weeks ago, but I decided to change my mind on it. But eventually, I'm going to come back to that one. Zombie Apocalypse was the one I landed on today, but I had a few others that I wanted to play with that I've been rolling around in my head, but I just didn't really have time, or I just didn't feel it. Uh, the mood didn't strike me like it normally does to do the show. Looks a little bit lower over here than it does over here. Did I miss something with my razor? Huh. Huh. Am I not sitting straight? No, it's a little crooked. It really is. Mr. Great Shots in the house. Cheers. Um, but yeah, that's I have like 5 or 6 show ideas at any given time, and I pick one of them. So I forgot what the topic was for tonight, but I was prepared. I am prepared for the show. I just forgot what the topic was going to be. And I do want to make sure that my stoner light is on. I forgot to turn on my stoner light. All right, guys, y'all ready? Let's go. Let's get the thing rolling. Oh, and I also wanted to give a big shout out to the 20 or so people who joined me in the last 3 weeks. I appreciate that. As that number continues, I don't remember where it was exactly. I think it was in the 2160 range. We're going to be up around 2200 before you know it. Where was I? The last one, 4th of July show that came out a little bit late. Here it was, the All About Gin show. That one had 2120. We're up 60. We're up even more than I thought. That's cool. Big shout out to the folks who've joined us in that time. I do appreciate your support. Do appreciate your subscription. Hope to make many more videos as we march towards the monetization goal, which hopefully we will reach sometime by late August or mid-September. Fingers crossed. We've been treading water a little bit because June of last year was a big month for hours. July last year was not a huge month, but it was a good month. August to kind of settle down a little bit. So we'll see if we can't get that mojo back. See if we can get us another 2, 3, 400 hour month and get things rolling. See, last year in June, I think it was May and June that I was like streaming almost every day, 3, 4, 5 nights a week. That was too much. It was too many nights, too many hours, too much time. But I may have to get back to that in August and September. I may have to do a 1 hour, 2 hour nightly stream just to get some of those 10, 11, 12 hours, 10, 11, 12 hour nights back. I know in September when it starts to cool off, I will be live from the distillery much more often. Right now, it's really hard to stream from the distillery because as soon as I turn on the camera, as soon as I turn on the computer, I am just sweating buckets because it is so damn hot. I am an unpresentable mess when I'm in the distillery. But I do think I'm going to build a couple of these and give them away to a lucky winner as we approach that monetization point. So someone will likely be walking home with one of those when we do our viewer appreciation and giveaway show. So, all that said, as a prelude to what we're coming up to, now's the time to do the show. Now's the time to do the topic. I am drinking, like I said, our Boomtown Bourbon. This is our Blackout Bourbon, special edition label of Boomtown Bourbon. I will likely be, next time you see me, I'll likely be switched back over to our standard label, Boomtown Bourbon, the blue label, but tonight it is the black label, and I am loving it. It is delightful. So, Zombie Apocalypse. Drum roll. I don't want to do it on there. Zombie Apocalypse. I don't have anything to do a drum roll with. All right. Splash. Action. Whatever. Zombie Apocalypse. I mean, it could be any apocalypse, really. Zombie Apocalypse is the pop culture fan favorite common trope to use. But I mean, let's be realistic. If it was a real apocalypse, we're talking about a real apocalypse. The pandemic was an apocalypse of sorts, but it wasn't an apocalypse. It was just a pandemic. It was an economic apocalypse for a lot of people. It was a big challenge for a lot of people, but like here in the States, we only lost 1 million. We lost 1 million people. It wasn't nothing to sneeze at. Please don't sneeze. Wear your mask. Across the world, we lost tens of millions, I think. I think it was something like 20 million across the globe. What was that number? Hey Siri, how many people died during the pandemic? COVID-19 killed worldwide, true death toll, estimating global death about 3 million? Really? I thought we had like 1 million people, or was it 1 million cases in the US? All right, well, let's call it 3 million people. Reached to 1.8. Preliminary estimates suggest total number of global deaths attributable to COVID-19 pandemic in 2022 at least 3 million. Okay, so that's 3 million out of 8 billion people. Hey Siri, how many people died in the influenza pandemic of 1919? It was 1919. 1918 pandemic. 500 million people, a third of the world's population. So this wasn't even close to as bad as the bird flu epidemic, the influenza outbreak, the Spanish flu outbreak back in the 1919s, 100 years ago. This was bad. It was the worst thing we'd seen, the worst we've seen in 100 years. But it wasn't the worst thing we've ever seen. The AIDS epidemic was bad, but it wasn't endemic to the population, and it didn't kill 3 million people. It didn't kill nearly the scope. I mean, the influenza epidemic over the course of several years wiped out. What did they say? What did it say? A third? A third? That's a lot. Jesus Christ, that's a lot. Did it really say a third? Did I read that correctly? The influenza outbreak, and that was coupled with a war, even. That I didn't pull that open. Hey Siri, how many people died from the Spanish flu pandemic? 50 million people. Jesus Christ. 50 million people. That's hard to imagine. What percentage of the population died from the Spanish flu? Okay, it says about 3% of the population. That's still a lot. 3% of the whole fucking population. That's a lot of people. So let's when I say apocalypse, I mean like an apocalypse that wipes out a significant portion of the human population. We're just talking 3%, talking 15, 25, 35, maybe even 50% of the population. 50% of the population, I think, is a good start. Because when you talk about apocalypse, you're talking about life-changing social structure changing, economics changing type of event, possibly environmental changing, something like the Bronze Age collapse, for example. That was something that was brought about. People think, archaeologists, paleontologists, anthropologists think the Bronze Age collapse was brought about by a a poorly placed volcano, a volcanic eruption that just so happened to be in the middle of Mycenaean civilization, and it just basically wiped out the wiped out trading partners, wiped out coastal cities, caused the collapse of the Bronze Age civilizations. That's an apocalyptic event, right? Um, Extinction level events, asteroids, stuff like that wipes out entire populations, entire species, entire groups of animals and stuff. The human species has experienced several apocalyptic level uh, illnesses over the course of our existence throughout humanity for the last 2.5 million years. Um, Even up to and including the time of civilization, humanity as we know it, over the past 25,000 years or so, where the population has collapsed down to several hundred, or possibly just a few thousand, global population of just a few thousand. I read a stat the other day that said the entire population of humans in Central Europe, 15,000 years ago, could have fit inside a single Carnival cruise liner. That's saying something, because Carnival cruise liner can hold about 7,000 people. So that's saying humanity was not extensive and widespread as it is now. We saw it with the American Indians. Uh, uh, Central American civilizations, Mayas, Aztecs, with the Spanish invasion, the Colombian invasion, the post-Columbian invasions of the Americas, when entire people groups were just completely decimated and demolished from actual pandemic strains of viruses that they'd never seen before. So, when I talk about apocalypse, zombie apocalypse is an easy one to just, yeah, zombie apocalypse. Can you survive a zombie apocalypse? Well, first of all, probably not. But when I talk about actual apocalyptic level events, I'm talking about shit that we have never seen in since the existence of mankind, in your lifetime, in written history. Now, that's not true, because within written history, we've seen it. We've seen it wipe out the Americans. We haven't seen it in the last 1,000 years. No, that's not even true. We haven't seen it in the last 500 years. No, that's not true, because it was in the 1600s with the Black Death. We haven't seen it in the last 300 years. I think I can narrow it down far enough. We haven't seen it in the last 300 years. We haven't seen it in modern times. We haven't seen it since the introduction of pharmaceuticals, vaccinations, inoculations. We haven't seen it since then. We haven't seen it since the introduction of modern medicine. But prior to modern medicine, we've seen plagues wipe out a fifth of humanity. We've seen plagues wipe out almost entire 90% of populations in the New World. We've seen it happen. And that's what I talk about when I talk about apocalyptic events. Can you survive an apocalypse? I'm talking about a thing that wipes out more than half the population, or close to half the population. Um, would you have survived the Black Death? Odds are probably. Um, Probably, because, like, most of humanity survived the Black Death. I mean, that only wiped out a fifth of the population, so odds are in your favor, right? Odds are in your favor that you survived the Black Death. Just a random selection, you'll probably be a part of the 4/5, or yeah, 4/5, the 80% that survives. So that said, chances are you survive the apocalypse, if it's an apocalypse like that. If it's a real apocalyptic level event, something like an asteroid or a virus, or a zombie level virus that wipes out 30, 40, 50, 60%, 60% of the population. If it wipes out 60% of the population, odds are you're not surviving. And let's face it, if more than half the people die, I mean, chances are you die. I mean, if 5 people, or yeah, if 5 people are standing there, 3 of them are going to die. just complete random chance. So chances are you're not going to be one of the 2 people that walk out of it. I mean, that's just how it is. 60%, you're one of the 60. That's how it is. There's a chance, though. There's a chance you're one of the 2 out of 5 that survive. Let's say you're lucky, you become one of those 2 that survive. Okay, so civilization's collapsed. Modern civilization has collapsed. We don't have electricity because even with the nuclear power plants will keep running, the solar power plants keep running, the solar panels keep providing electricity, the wind energy keeps going, but eventually the coal dries up, or the coal burns out and the coal plants die. The natural gas stops flowing. The natural gas plants die. All those other plants die, except for nuclear and all. But the good news is there's so few people left that those nuclear plants, solar plants, and wind plants will probably provide enough electricity for all of your electricity needs for the foreseeable future. So you can still live in a world with creature comforts as long as the machines continue to operate. So you've got your air conditioning and refrigerators and all of that stuff running. The basic background electricity continues to run. You're good to go for the most part. Power doesn't shut off right away. And let's just assume that those facilities are fairly automated. Everything's being delivered. Everything's fine. Now that works out just fine until the transmission lines die, and you don't know how to make electricity. And I don't even have to qualify that with you're probably not an electrical engineer. You don't know how to run a power plant. You don't know how to make electricity. We all know how to make electricity, right? You put magnets on a wheel, you spin the wheel, you make electricity. We all know how, but none of us have ever done it. You could learn how. You could absolutely learn how to do it. It's not that complicated. It's not that hard. But you've got to survive. You're not going to be making electricity on day one. You're going to have to go out and learn how to survive. And good news, great news, most people are dead. I mean, that sucks. That's shitty news. Don't get me wrong. Great news, though, when it comes to foraging for food. Most people are dead, so there's plenty of food out there to be had. There's plenty of food in the grocery stores, plenty of food to be had. There's 60% of the population in cities. Probably more population in cities has been wiped out. Less population in the rural areas has been just wiped out for whatever reason, whether it's zombies or asteroids or whatever. And the reason being, if it was zombies are going to go and eat people where there's people to be eaten, right? They're not going to be eating people in rural Nebraska because there's no people to be eaten in rural Nebraska. They're going to be eating people in Lincoln, Nebraska. They're going to be eating people in Kansas City, Missouri, but they're not really going to be eating people in Chesterfield, Missouri, because there's nobody to be eaten in Chesterfield, Missouri. There's 8,000 people in Chesterfield, Missouri. There's 8 million people. Well, there's not 8 million people in a city in Missouri. There's 2.5 million people, I think, in St. Louis. Million people in St. Louis. So the zombies are going to be in St. Louis. More people in St. Louis are going to get wiped out than anywhere else in the state. So chances are, where there's a concentration of food, there's going to be plenty of resources to be had if you're out scavenging for food, right? You may have to get through hordes of zombies. Let's just if it's a zombie apocalypse. I don't really think there's zombies that exist. But if there aren't zombies, then you may have to worry about highwaymen and marauders and stuff like various bands of people trying to get the resources. But there's so much resources in cities. The coolers are going to continue to cool. The supermarkets are going to continue to super. The canned goods are going to continue to stay fresh and good. The stuff that's going to go bad first, obviously, are going to be the vegetables and the fruits. But then the stuff that's preserved in the cold foods aisle, and then the frozen foods aisle, and then the canned goods, all that stuff's going to be great. So you can loot all the rice and beans that you need to loot. You'll be fine. Get the meat, cook up that shit. You'll be fine. Anyway, then you got to start thinking about rebuilding, some kind of sense of safety and security. So, you got to build a perimeter. You got to have a space. If it's just you by yourself, chances are you're done for. you're not going to, and I'm just speaking in practical sense. If it's just you by yourself, chances are you're done for. And the reason I say in the opening panel on the thumbnail that, so you think you can survive a zombie apocalypse? No, you probably won't. Chances are you won't survive the apocalypse because you need three things to survive. Three things, three basic things. You need to be able to get food. You need to have security of your personal space, and you need to have some kind of ability to gather, collect, and protect your resources. So if you have, let's say your first things first, you find food, you have the ability to get food, you're good to go with food. Okay, you have access to whatever stores and forages. 60% of the people in your neighborhood are gone. You have all of their kitchens, all of their pantries, all of their food. You and the other 40% of people can split it up in your neighborhood. You're good to go. Let's just say that's a thing. And then now let's say you figure out a way to build a perimeter around your space. You've got security in your space, right? Well, now you've got resources and you need to protect the resources. You're not going to be able to protect your resources alone. Human beings are a tribal creature. We band together, we form tribes, build social units, and we figure out a way to survive together as a group. We are not solitary creatures. We do not survive alone. We never, ever in the history of humanity, in the last 25,000 years, have we ever survived alone. At least not for an extended amount of time. Because what happens is you get sick, you get frail, you get dead. You get an infection, you die. You twist an ankle, you die. You hurt your knee, you die. Any little ailment, any little impingement in your ability to go get more food, go get more resources, take care of yourself, you are dead. D-E-D, dead. So, here's the catch for a lot of people. You think you're a survivalist. You think you can survive. You think you can go build a cabin in the woods. You think you can build your little survival hut. You've got your bug out bag. You've got your resources. I've got enough stuff in my basement that I could live for 6 years all on my lonesome. No, you can't. You can't live for 6 years all on your lonesome. You've never done it in your entire life. You've never done it. You have grown up in a world where you rely on people around you to do things. You've grown up in a world, even if you don't think you need them to do it, they're still doing it. Other people built the roads. Other people built your house. Other people made your clothes. Other people make your food. Other people set up your work and you finish the work. Other people finish the work that you set up. You've never, ever, ever lived a solitary existence a day in your life. You've never done it. You think you know how to do it, but you've never. You may be able to learn how to do it, but it's a quick, steep learning curve. And here's the other half of that. You might be an asshole, and people may not like you. And if people don't like you, if you've grown up in a world where you can survive by being an asshole, because people do their work whether you're an asshole or not, you're going to have to learn really fast how to not be an asshole. Because if you're an asshole, they're not going to let you into the tribe. They're going to shove you outside the walls, they're going to lock the gates, and you can go fend for yourself. And you'll be happy to do it because you're an independent survivor and you can do it. I've got my 55,000 pounds of rice and I can do whatever I want. Yeah. And you're going to get an infected cut and you're going to die. That's how it's going to be. Do you think you can survive a zombie apocalypse? No, you can't. You can't survive a zombie apocalypse. You can't survive an apocalypse of any sort. Chances are, when all the dust settles, about 10% of the population survives. And if you are an antisocial jackass who thinks he's better than everybody else, you are not going to survive the zombie apocalypse, whatever apocalypse it is. You are going to be one of the 9, not one of the 1. And to be completely honest, I am under no delusions whatsoever that I survive an apocalypse of any sort. I am 25 years beyond, probably 30 years beyond surviving apocalypses of any, probably 35 years beyond surviving the apocalypse. Because the fourth thing is you're not young enough. Chances are you're not young enough, because you know who's gonna be surviving the zombie apocalypse? 13, 14, 15-year-olds. Those are the people that are going to be surviving. If you're outside of your 20s, if you're on the back end of your 20s, if you're approaching your 30s, they don't need you. You are outside of birth and age. You're beyond fertile years. You're beyond the birth and age. You do, and what's worse is living in modern society. You don't have the wisdom and knowledge that the young people need to keep the civilization. They have no need for your bullshit. They have no need for you. No need for your bullshit. They don't need you around. They're not going to waste their resources keeping your old ass alive. And yeah, at 35, you're old in the apocalypse. You'll be lucky if they want to keep you around. Now, the young people may want to keep you around for security purposes, but, because you may be able to fight, you may be able to hold a staff and defend the walls, but they don't want to listen to your opinions. They don't want to listen to your opinions. They don't want to know they don't want to hear from you about how to run things. They don't want to hear none of your shit. So you're going to be given a staff, you're going to be given a knife, you're going to be pointed at a wall, you're going to be told to shut the hell up, Grandpa, because nobody wants to hear it. Will you survive a zombie apocalypse? No. You're going to be on the front lines. Chances are you're going to be on the front lines because they don't like you, and they're going to put you on the front lines because they don't want to hear it. And even more, if you're a guy, chances, and like the population's been decimated. If you're a guy, they don't need a lot of you. They may need you for defensive purposes, physical stature and all that. They may need you for defensive purposes. But hey, spoiler alert, they don't need you for procreation. One guy is all like 30 girls need. They don't even need to like you. You just need to have good genes. Because they don't need a different guy every day. Every pair of procreating couples doesn't need a unique guy. One guy can be a donor for several kids, several tribes. Imagine that. They have like 3 guys in a dungeon, in a box, in a room, in a house. Like, this is your job. We got 25 women. The matriarchy of the tribe. Like, we don't need any men except for 4. And you're one of 4 guys. And that's your job. You're a breeding mare. Mare? Stud. You're a breeding stud. That's it. That's all you do. All you do. And if you can't perform, they'll go out and get another one. Yeah. Welcome to the apocalypse, boys. You are secondary citizens. Dark, isn't it? You think you can survive the zombie apocalypse? You think you can survive the apocalypse of any sort? If you're male, you have a role, maybe. If you're female, definitely. If you're older than 13, probably. Well, if you're older than 30, probably not. If you're an asshole, and trust me, a lot of you people are assholes. Nope. You're one of the first ones to go. They don't like you. And what else is there? I think that's I think that's all my notes. Let me check real quick. If you're old, you're out. If you're an asshole, you're out. If you don't have, you can see, having skills isn't even that important because you can learn the skills. You can learn how to blacksmith. You can learn how to make beer. You can learn how to make whiskey. You can learn how to make penicillin. You can learn how to make bread. You can learn how to cook. You can learn how to sew and make clothes. And you can learn how to do all these things. That's not important. So that's why I didn't even touch on that stuff. Set of skills is not that important. You can learn how to do all that. If you have resources, that doesn't make you valuable. That makes you a target, especially if you're an asshole. So there's social skills that are involved in surviving the zombie apocalypse. Do you have social skills? Do you have those social? Do you think people like you? I can tell you this much, Atlas Shrugged. People don't like you. People don't. There's a lot of people out there who survive whose existence is predicated on the fact that you live in a modern society and you don't have to get along with people. If you had to get along with people, would you survive? Would you? Really? I doubt it. I doubt it very seriously. There's a lot of folks out there that don't have to get along with people, and they would not survive a zombie apocalypse because in the zombie apocalypse, you have to be nice to your neighbor. You have to be nice to your neighbor. You have to be nice to your friends. You have to be nice to your family. You have to be nice to the people you don't like because you have to integrate in their society. You have to talk to them. You have to see them. You have to interact with them on a daily basis. Do you know how to do that? I don't know. I don't know if you know how to do. I don't know if there's a lot of people these days who still know how to do that. So anyway, there you go. That's it. I'm done with the monologue. Let's get on with the chat. I want to move on to chat. Um, I'm going to start with John Longshanks right there. That was the last one I remember seeing. I need to zoom this in. Zoom it out? No, zoom it in so that I can see. It's not big enough. That's the one I'm looking for. Up, up, up. See, I'm not wearing spectacles. So I got to make sure I can see. That's Sunflowers I see? I haven't seen her in forever. Cheers, Sunflowers. All right, so we got Mr. Great Shot in the house. Cheers, Mr. Great Shot. Sunflowers, Mr. Great Shot. Welcome to the party, Sunflowers. I have not seen you in forever, and it is good to see you. I haven't seen you in forever, probably because I haven't done a stream in forever. But it is truly good to see you. I need to check my analytics board over here. This is the one I want to see. There it is. Average views and average time per view. That's what I want to see. Okay, so where are we at? Over here. Mr. Great Shot. Sunflowers. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. How about the plague? The plague. Yeah. That wiped out what? 20% of the world population, and it was concentrated in cities. There were rural areas that got crushed, but I think the cities lost a lot of. And see, that's just the thing. Like the plagues are usually concentrated where there's people. Where there's people. Okay, this is what I need to. I need to fix my damn hat. I'd like to get a new hat. I want to get another Stetson. But I do like my leather hats. But the distribution of death in a plague, an apocalypse, in a societal collapse type of thing, it's concentrated where there's people for it. So like Thanos, like doing the snap, takes out 50% of the population of the earth, right? Like that's 50% of all the people. Presumably that would be indiscriminate, right? You're standing there, the person next to you, one of you two, poof, gone, right? But the reality is that hits China worse than it hits the United States. United States loses 150 million people. China loses 500 million people. India loses 500 million people. Russia loses like 90 million people because I think their population is 180 million. So like the population that it hits, it's indiscriminate, but it hits certain places harder because there's just a concentration of people. But that's not how viruses work. Viruses communicate between or communicate, commute. They jump from person to person. So where there's low population density, they spread slower. So in places like Houston, Dallas, San Antonio, Austin, New Orleans, San Francisco, Los Angeles, New York City, the Miami. The virus catches on and spreads faster because you have large concentrations of people uh, in a viral apocalypse. And let's assume viral apocalypse and zombie apocalypse are the same sort of thing. So where you have 5 million people in a city, uh, person dies, turns into a zombie. They infect two people. They infect two people. Now all of a sudden you have hordes of zombies roaming around the cities, right? Well, that doesn't happen in a place like Happy, Texas, for example. Happy, Texas has 500 people in it. So a person dies, they become a zombie, they go looking for another person to eat. Like they may get 5 or 6 people to join their party and be zombies too, right? But it's going to take them a while to find the sixth or eighth or 10th person. Those 5 zombies go roaming around. They're not going to, I mean, they got the concentrate. That's everybody who was at the diner at lunchtime. All 8 people. Poof, they're zombies. Now you got to go. Now you got to go searching far and wide. I mean, if you see a bunch of zombies coming down the street, you're the person in the bank. You lock the door to the bank. You're good. Just wait for them to move along. You're fine. Just chill. They move along. You get out of the bank. You get in your car. You leave. Where are you going to go? Back to the farm? What's the matter? There's no concentration of people in a place like that. They're all dispersed and all spread out. So, you may come along across 1 or 2 or 3 at a time, but you'll be able to handle that. It's the hordes of thousands that you can't handle that create more hordes of thousands that create more hordes of thousands. Atlanta, Savannah, Chattanooga, Nashville, any of your major cities, they're going to have big concentrations. So in a viral apocalypse, the cities get wiped out, like with the plague. Cities get wiped out, rural areas, while rural areas may get decimated, you have 500 people in the rural area, you may lose 300 or so. That's nothing compared to the body count in the city, even if it is evenly distributed. But I don't think it's evenly distributed. I think in the rural areas, if you have 500 people, you might lose 100, 150. In the city, it's the flip. 100, 150 out of 500 survive. I think. I think that's how it works. I'd have to go double check on my notes and the source material and review my math and make sure that that's true. But I can't remember exactly. But I think that's how it works because we even saw that during the COVID outbreaks. Rural and suburban areas, they didn't have nearly the concentration of outbreaks that they had in urban areas and near city populations. So yeah, there you go. Snowball Earth. Snowball Earth, we're all dead. Snowball Earth, we're all dead. We all die if hell literally freezes over, we're all fucked. There's no two ways about it. That kills everybody and everything. And in fact, I think if I recall my my anthropology, my geology lessons, Snowball Earth was caused by an overabundance of an overabundance of oxygen in the atmosphere that killed off, what was it? It was plant life that exploded after the development of chlorophyll and uh, chlorophyll and the process to turn sunlight into energy. Chloroplasty, oh shit, I forgot the word. Anyway, after that, there was an explosion of plant life that sucked all the carbon dioxide out of the air, that raised the oxygen levels, that resulted in a rapid cooling of the earth, if I recall. And all that carbon dioxide got caught up in the plants. The earth cooled, the microbes fell to the ocean floor and died, and that's why we have oil. Microbial plant life that turned into oil. Fossilized microbial plant life. Um, I think that's what happened, if I recall my geology lessons from college. Um, and I don't remember what cracked the snowball Earth. I think it was plate tectonics. The shifting of plates released plumes of smoke and dust and smoke and dust and carbon into the air that resulted in a heating up of Earth and breaking up of snowball Earth, if I recall. But I'm hazy on that. A little bit hazy on that. Jack of all trades kind of. I'm kind of a jack of all trades. I like to consider myself a polymath, someone who like Rene Descartes, who we talked about a few weeks back. Um, he was he knows he did a lot of stuff. He practiced a lot of things. He dabbled in a lot of things. And to survive in an apocalyptic world, you can't be a specialist. You can't be I mean, you can be a specialist. You can specialize in an area, but you have to be able to do a lot of different things. You have to be able to be curious about things, and you have to be willing to try things and willing to uh, 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 you have to be good at a bunch of things and maybe specialize in a few. You have to be able to pick up and haul and move and carry wood and be a general handyman for maintenance and whatnot. But if you can specialize in a trade, that makes you even that much more valuable because they're going to want the guy who can learn how to make bread or who can learn how to make drinks or who can learn how to like drinking water, purify water for drinks, who can learn how to blacksmith, who can learn how to woodcraft, who can learn how to do all the stuff that needs to be done. Now they don't need somebody who can make specialty wood products that take 45 hours to make a single chair. They want somebody who can pump out a bunch of damn chairs. If you can pump out your own chair, that's fine. But and that's how it was for the most part in the pioneer West of the United States. Like we did our own shit, we made our own shit, but we also banded together in civilizations and banded together in societies so that we could look after one another and ensure the safety and security of our resources. That's what we do as a people. That's how we function. That's how we thrive. That's how we survive. And if you're an asshole, well, you're going to have a short, brutal life because people aren't going to want you in their tribe. The Highwaymen, Walter Kurtz in the house. Cheers, Walter. Yes, the Highwaymen were a fantastic group. What was that? Willie and Chris Christopherson and um, Willie Nelson, Chris Christopherson. Uh, hey Siri, who all was in the Highwaymen? Willie Nelson, Chris Christopherson, Johnny Cash, of course, Johnny Cash, and Waylon Jennings. God damn, I can't believe I forgot Waylon Jennings. Waylon Jennings and Johnny Cash, the Highwaymen. That was a great group. A super group, country music super group, outlaw country super group. Got to be clear about that. Got good genes, Levi's, Lucky, True. You left off Wrangler. The only good genes are Wrangler genes. All the others are just uh, I guess Levi's and Wranglers. Levi's built the West. Wranglers worked the West. So there you go. Not worried about viruses. I can't remember the last time I had the flu. I never got COVID, even being in a house full of people that had it. Yeah, well, see, that's just the thing. It's not the viruses that you worry about. And if there's ever going to be an apocalypse, well, I don't know. I fancy the idea of if there's ever going to be an apocalyptic level event, it's going to be some kind of resistant virus that hits us and sweeps. But God's honest truth, it's probably going to be famine and plague. It's going to be famine, a plague brought about by famine. Um, let's ponder this idea. Come on over here to my office. Let me lean back and get in my thinking chair here for a second. Like, we have medicines. We study viruses all the time. We are constantly studying viruses. We have our finger, so to speak, on the pulse of viruses in the world. we can rapidly respond. And we saw it with COVID. We were able to rapidly respond to a new, unusual, unique variant of a very challenging virus to control. These coronaviruses are hard to control. The cold, the flu, these are viruses that are of a classification that are very hard uh, to wrangle in and eradicate and control, as evidenced by the fact that COVID-19 is now considered to be endemic. Um, if we'd have acted fast, we may have been able to put the brakes on it back in April, but that's debatable because there's no way to know for sure. We could have tracked every case. We may have had outbreaks, but outbreaks would have been one or two people, and we could have controlled it and gotten on top of it and cleared it up, done and done and done. So it's debatable. I mean, it's arguable that like 400, 500 people were the cause of the spread of the pandemic. 400 or 500 people making bad policy decisions, spreading lies, spreading rumors, spreading bullshit in general. It's not hard to find a list of them. We know who they are. We know their names. We saw them on TV. It's not your uncle or your aunt or your neighbor. Those aren't the people who are to fault. They're the people who received the dumb, bad information and repeated it. They're just dumb people. There's nothing, you don't blame those people. It's the people who knew better, who were lying and saying stupid shit, like Dan Patrick here in Texas, who was like, "Oh, we'll happily sacrifice our lives to get kids back in school. Our old people will happily sacrifice our lives for the good of the economy." My mom, I'm not willing to sacrifice my mom's life for the good of the economy. No, thank you. They knew better. That's why I'm saying 400 or 500 people. They knew better. Maybe 1,000. They knew better. They didn't. They just said the stupid things, and stupid people repeating it. There's nothing. I don't blame the stupid people. I blame the people who knew better. But for the most part, we have research labs all across the world in key locations. If Ebola breaks out, we're on top of it. If dengue fever breaks out, we're on top of it. If there's a breakout of cholera, we're on top of it. The breakout of bird flu, we're on top. Breakout of swine flu, we're on top of all this shit. We can catch it, we can contain it, we can control it. We may lose 1 million people, we may lose 3 million people around the world, but we'll control it. We'll catch it, we'll contain it, we'll control it. I'm not so much worried about viruses. True society disrupting apocalyptic events don't happen by themselves. I'm not worried about the virus by itself. I'm worried about the virus coming during a famine and a war, like the Spanish flu during World War One, where there was a shortage of resources, a war going on, and a flu outbreak at the same time. Because you'd put a bunch of guys in a boat, ship the boat across the ocean, and by the time they got to the other side, half the people in the boat were dead. Lack of resources, close confines, during a war, the ingredients for disaster, pure disaster. Now we were really lucky during the pandemic, during the last bird flu outbreak, during the outbreak before that. We have plenty of food, we have plenty of resources. We're not going hungry, we're not starving, and we're not in the middle of a world war with filthy sanitary conditions. So, people go into the front lines, they're in filthy conditions, they get sick, They go back to the back lines to recuperate. Everybody back there, everybody that they were in contact with in the front, everybody they were in contact with in the back, they're all sick. So one person gets a whole bunch of people sick all the way up and down. And then, there's not enough food, there's not enough clothing, there's not enough resources, there's not enough anything to go around, and it spreads throughout the ward. It goes back to the neighborhoods, back to their communities. Thousands of people get sick from that one person. So I'm not so much worried about the virus itself. I'm worried about the conditions around the virus. If the virus catches in the same time as plague, this is why I'm a little bit worried about climate change. And that's why epidemiologists are worried about climate change as it intersects with epidemics and epidemiology and pandemic research, because if you have crop failures, across a significant population, let's say like Ethiopia, you have crop failure in Ethiopia, famine takes hold, a virus outbreak, you lose 60% of the population. It's a combination of factors. You have crop failure, famine, civil war, virus, whoosh, pandemic. Huge epidemic, wipes significant portion of the population out. And this wasn't uncommon among human civilization for centuries. For centuries. Population of a city gets too big, there's a war, famine, plague, whoosh. You go from 1.5 million people in a city down to 500,000. And then start over, pick it up again. Barbarians are at the gate. Rome collapses. Cities get sacked and looted and burned and whoosh. But we haven't seen stuff like that since the introduction of modern medicine, because we're able to spot, identify, and wipe out viral spreads and viral pandemics, viral growth within a population. But when you have populations that are being hit hard by other forces, like Haiti, for example, that's had a cholera outbreak for like 3 years, 4 years, since the last earthquake. Maybe that's 6 years. Shit. They had a cholera outbreak. And it keeps coming, because its source goes back to the United Nations peacekeeping base that's there, and they keep getting cholera from the United Nations peacekeepers. But it's a confluence of things. It's virus plus war plus natural disaster plus poverty, lack of resources. Those three things combined, it's this ongoing pressure on a population to continue to fuck them. And, with changing climate, you have changing crop patterns, changing farming patterns. That stuff moves further north, becomes less able to happen down in the south. Conditions get more and more and more hospitable for pathogens in the hotter and hotter areas. And then next thing you know, the entire Gulf Coast of the United States gets decimated. Not wiped out, decimated. Half the people from Brownsville to Tampa. Well, I guess Tampa isn't a place. Is it? Is Tampa a place? Tampa's a bay. Is Tampa a place? Tampa's a city. Tampa, Florida. Tampa's a city in Florida. Yeah. So from Brownsville to Tampa, Florida, you get 40% of the population gets wiped out from exotic illnesses, because food is just uninhabitable because it's too fucking hot. And that's possible. It's gonna be tough, because we're connected to a very vital logistical chain for supplying food, but you get a few crop failures, a few blights, a few crop failures, and then all of a sudden you're in a bad way. And we don't have locusts here in the United States anymore. The Rocky Mountain locust has all but extinct. But you talk about crop failures. That could be part of the problem. Absolutely part of the problem. What'd you have to say here? Great shot. The vaccine and where is it? The vaccine and the boosters have been seen to be ineffective. That is untrue. I'm not even going to read the rest of that. My bet is an asteroid. Yep, that's true. Asteroids. I mean, there's always the chance that an asteroid's could be the thing. And there's nothing we can do about that. Asteroid wipes out 90% of the population. And would you even want to survive? Would you want to survive a nuclear apocalypse? Would you want to survive an asteroid hitting the Earth? Would you want to live in a world? I mean, think about it. 25 years from now, if the asteroid hits today, it would take, 25 years for the dust to, let's say 5 years, 10 years for the dust to settle. I'm 48. 5 years from now, I'm 53. I lived through 5 years of famine, pestilence, war, starvation. No thanks. I mean, what am I going to look like at 55 years old after 5 years of famine? I mean, Jesus Christ. I don't know if I want to live in that. I don't even know if I don't even know if I want to survive that. Who would? I mean, there's a reason the life expectancy for people back in the Stone Ages was 40. In the Middle Ages, it was like 35 to 40 years old. Jesus, who would want to live? I mean, you're shitting in holes. You're walking through slop in the middle of the roads. Who would want to live through that? Ugh. No thanks. Yeah. Everyone's favorite, Dan Patrick. He's an absolute piece of shit. Not that Dan Patrick. He does own a radio station here in Houston though. Walter's going to get his beauty sleep. You need to get extra sleep there, Walter. Cheers, great shot. I am going to be in Austin next month at the Total Wine. I think it's Austin next month. It might be in September, but I'll keep you posted. Dustin's in the house. What the hell, Dustin? Cheers. What do you care? Why do you care about what you look like? What the fuck are you talking about? I don't know. On the plus side, you keep a few women around. It'd be your job to repopulate the earth. Well, that's just the thing. If you're the guy and the job is to repopulate the earth, you're not the one keeping the women around. The women are the one keeping you around. And if you if you you're their livestock. They're not your livestock. They're the one keeping you around. The matriarchy decides, oh, we need to make him king because it keeps his ego happy. Yeah. That's not you being king. That's them letting you sit on a chair and wear a fancy hat. That's they don't need you. They can get another one of you. They can find another one. And that's probably why the guys fight each other. Just to make sure, they have the rights to the women, but the women can choose to keep you around or not. They can feed you. They feed you. They are the ones that get the food. Have I seen the Survivor shows where they do men? I haven't watched Survivor in about 10 years. I know it's still on, but I haven't watched it in a long time. But I do know, and this is the dumb thing about Survivor, they always, always, always keep one chick around in a bikini. If you're the chick in the bikini, they keep you around. And it's the dumbest thing because guys are like, yo, I want to keep her around to the end. She's fun to look at. You fucking idiots. Get rid of the skirts. Get rid of them all right at the beginning. 100% be in charge. Women don't survive. That is That is that is only true in modern Western society where they subjugated women. It's not true in any other societies. In pre what is it pre modern society, though the women were far more in charge than you give them credit for. Um, oh yeah, real survivor type shows like fiction. There, there's no real survivor type shows. But I did watch Alone. I watched Alone. Um, Alone was a series where they basically um, drop people in the wilderness in Canada, in Vancouver, around this lake, and basically it was a test of endurance, and everybody was slowly starving themselves to death. And the guy who won was the fattest of them all. He was the guy who started out the fattest. No, I'm sorry, he was runner up. He was second place. He was losing too much body weight too quickly, so they told him he has to leave um, because he was risking his health. The guy who uh, survived all the way to the end was he got lucky and killed a deer on the first day. But of the final three, two of them were guys and one of them was a gal. She was smaller than the other three, but she was fully able to scavenge and collect food and collect enough food to be able to survive. I think she left because she wasn't eating enough, but I think the thing that knocked her out was that I can't remember what knocked her out. I mean, obviously, none of them were eating enough. It was a question of were you eating enough to be able to last long enough. What knocked her out? I think she was just lightheaded, and she was just like, I don't feel this doesn't. She didn't feel good. It was just. But yeah, no. I mean, when you consider the organization of, if you think of the repopulation of the Earth thing, their repopulation of society or whatnot, like women don't have a whole lot of need for three guys. They don't. I mean, a guy can sire a child every single day. A woman can only carry one child every 9 months, so one a year. They don't need one man for every woman. They need one man until he gets dehydrated, and they can toss him out and get another one. You're their livestock, and they don't need you. They don't need you. They can find another one. Men now they may need you, like I was saying before, for stature purposes, for defensive purposes, uh, uh, to carry things around. They need oxen. They may need guys to be able to do that sort of thing. Separate duties. Um, have guys lift the heavy things while they do the skilled labor. It's entirely reasonable, entirely possible. Um, but without the women, the society collapses. Without the guys, society can persist as long as they have one or two. Back when 15 women had a kid for every one man who did. Yeah, and there's lots of stories. There's lots of stories out there where, like Genghis Khan, who sired hundreds of kids, and tribal leaders who would sire dozens of kids, and men can sire dozens and dozens and dozens of children up until their 70s and 80s. Women, they have a what 15-year window from what is it? What's early age? Like 13 till like 30, give or take 40. So 20-year window, 30-year window tops. Guys can keep going to into our 70s and 80s. But to be practical about it, if you're in a post-apocalyptic pre-advanced pre-technology era, You're not giving birth into your 40s. You're not giving birth into your late 30s. You're not giving birth into your early 30s. You're done in your mid 20s. If you even survive childbirth to begin with, you're done in your late 20s tops. So, um, so yeah. Speaking of a post-apocalyptic world specifically, like, or a pre-technology world, like there's not a long life in general. Guys, there's not men who live into old age. Old age is in your 40s and 50s. There's not women who live into their old age. That's their 40s and 50s. And a lot of women die in childbirth in their 20s. That's just how it is. And thanks to modern medicine and technology, that's not how it is as much, except for the United States, which is highest among all developed countries with maternal mortality. But yeah, whatever. Um, he'd sleep with I think every single woman would allow him to. It's a difference in looking at it from a matriarchal point of view and a patriarchal point of view. Because I could see it going both ways. It could be they could have the guys maintaining power, but if it's one guy and a bunch of women, yeah, he doesn't maintain power. He does not maintain power. If it's one guy and a bunch of women, he does not maintain power. They maintain power, and he is their livestock. I mean, it's just math. Math, society, bunch of change. Um, it turns it upside down. Times 11 divided by 60. We need more of everything. What time is it? I absolutely have to end this at midnight because I have I have to bring my dog into the vet at 8 a.m. So, no post zombies. They need men to build roads, build homes, protect them. I don't. I think you overvalue. I mean, men would have like I was saying before, the physical stature, the physical capability of men in a post technology or pre technological, collapsed technological, post apocalyptic world. They would need men. Uh, Society in general would need men, heavy lifting, moving things. Uh, assuming that machines were not functioning, they would need them. No question. No question. We would be a valuable resource. No question. No question at all. Um, but I don't think men would be a default in charge. We're talking about civilization collapse. We're talking about societal collapse. In a world where there's civilization and societal collapse, I don't I don't think the template of what we see as Western society is what we should expect to see come out in a post-apocalyptic world. We would see a much more broad-based, democratized type of natural evolution of society. It wouldn't necessarily be the Western-based template of misogynistic, masculine, patriarchal type of world. Uh, I mean, we've got plenty of examples um, in microcosms within a patriarchal society where women are the head of households, they're the head of tribes, they're the head of uh, uh, societies in general. Not so much so in the United States. We're a very patriarchal society in the United States. We're a very patriarchal, very masculine society in the United States. But there's other places, I mean, geez, there's plenty of places where they've had uh, female leadership. Iceland, Ireland, England, France. France? Has France had a female prime minister? I don't think so. France may have never had a female prime minister. They've had a queen, I'm sure. Hey Siri, has France had a female prime minister or president? Elizabeth Bourne. Elizabeth Bourne is a French politician who served as prime minister of France since. They have a female prime minister right now. I'll be damned. She's a member of President Emmanuel Macron's party Renaissance, a civil engineer, government official, and manager of state enterprise in the transport and construction sectors. I'll be damned. Has France ever had a female president? I don't think they've ever had a female president. No. Has France ever had a queen without a king? And I don't think that's the case either. Yeah, they've never had a queen as a ruler. So anyway, but we have plenty of examples through Africa, through South America, through tribal communities in the United States, American Indians, South American Indians, Central American Indians, African tribal, Aboriginal tribal in Australia, and even Southeast Asia. We have plenty of examples of matriarchal societies that not only function but thrive. So there's absolutely no reason to think that that the default structure for society is men would be in charge. That's simply not true. That's simply not true. Even if it was a alpha male who would breed with whomever he wanted to, that exists within a microcosm of a patriarchal society. It's perfectly reasonable to imagine a society that has alpha females that have subjugated males to be breeding studs and effectively livestock. And he would not be in charge. He would exist to pleasure them, to service them up until the point that he can't. He needs electrolytes, and then just dump him off and get a new one. You can find another guy. Not post zombies. The 15-1 isn't. Yeah. Isn't story. It's based on DNA. 12, 13, about 40. Though the first few and last few are rough. Yes, that is true. The first few and last few are rough. And yeah, that's what I mean. Like, you're not gonna, if you're pumping out six or eight kids, the odds are not in your favor that you make it to the last one. Not in a post-technological or post-apocalypse, pre-technology type of civilization. Matriarchy doesn't work. That's untrue. The reason there's never been one is also untrue. Like, both parts of this statement are untrue. Matriarchy doesn't work. That's not true. There's a reason there's never been one. That's not true. Women don't build roads and buildings today. They don't? Is that so? You can't find female engineers, female civil engineers, female architectures? That's untrue. That's not true. Infrastructure drivers are nearly entirely men even today. They're significantly men, but not nearly entirely. Nearly entirely is untrue. And that's a function of women being excluded from those jobs for decades and even centuries. It is untrue. That is a social construct, not a fact. There's nothing in women's DNA that says they can't design buildings, design roads, and oversee the building of roads, and even lift and move heavy loads. And, I mean, it would take longer, but that doesn't mean they can't do it. But when you want to talk about specialization of fields, it would absolutely be better for men to specialize in moving bricks and loads of asphalt and loads of granite and crushed rocks, and women making bread and running businesses. But there's absolutely no reason why a woman can't drive it doesn't take any amount of muscles to drive a forklift, or to drive a bulldozer, or to a backhoe or a planer. It doesn't take any amount of muscles to fucking steer a steering wheel and shit. That's ridiculous. Now, in a post-apocalyptic world where those machines have stopped running, 15, 25, 30 years from now? Maybe, but they're not building roads at that point. If you've had a population collapse, where are you building roads to? I mean, the roads between here and Maryland already exist. The roads between here and California already exist. You're not building roads. In a post-apocalyptic world, you don't need guys building roads. You don't even need guys maintaining roads. You just need to use the resources you have. The U.S. is not a patriarchy by any means. That is the dumbest, wrongest statement I've seen in a long fucking time. The U.S. is not a patriarchy by any means. We elected a fucking buffoon, moron, idiot because we didn't want to vote for a woman. we we elected a full-on fucking criminal buffoon moron because we didn't want to elect a woman. We as a people hate the vice president of the United States who has done nothing. Literally done nothing. She is so fucking unpopular. She's a vice president. Vice presidents do absolutely nothing. And she has done nothing remarkably well. And people despise her. I don't know why they despise her. I don't like her, but it's not like I despise her. I don't. She kind of rubs me the wrong way. I don't know. She just. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure she'd be fine, whatever she does. Anyway. Zero chance of any what? Uh-oh. Uh-oh. What's going on? What's going on? Did we just have a spike in people's? What's this? Small spike. There it is. Zero chance of any of this. Oh, there's an absolute zero chance of any of this. There's no apocalypse on the horizon. Hotshot. It's not coming. Those roads will be gone in 10 years. That's bullshit. Engineers and architects don't build. That's kind of true. They don't. They oversee the building, but you'll need roads to use things while wheelbarrows. Yeah, you will. I mean, I see what you mean. I mean, I'm not disagreeing with the separation of roles and actions, and I mentioned that before. Like you need guys, for defensive purposes. Like even old guys, you need bodies, physical bodies. They would take old guys, but like if it's a question of adding you to the community, if you're an old person, they don't want you. They're not going to bring in a 75-year-old man. They may bring in a 50-year-old guy, give you a staff, give you a knife, and put you on the walls. They may bring in, older guys to put out there for defensive purposes and for labor. But they don't need, like the people that a post-apocalyptic society needs, that's under 25 years old. They don't need people who are over 30. Absolutely don't need people over 30. You consume more than you contribute when you're over 30. And that's how it is. And that was the thesis that I was working on when I was talking about the guys. That led to ultimately the guys. When you consume more than you contribute, then your value to society comes into question. In a post-apocalyptic society where there's finite resources and scarcity of resources, when resources are infinite, they don't give a shit what you consume. Just be a wasteful prick. But on top of that, if you're a prick, they're not gonna. You're going to have a harder time surviving in a post-apocalyptic world because you need to secure your resources. You need to gather resources and secure your resources, and then be able to protect your resources. And if you're an asshole, then other people aren't going to want to work with you to help you protect your resources. So if you're an asshole, and let's face it, in modern America, in modern society in general, we have developed this protective device, this inoculation that even allows assholes to be able to be antisocial pricks who don't have to work with other people, who can just be dicks all the time that nobody likes, and still succeed and thrive just fine. Because other people build your roads, other people build your houses, other people make your clothes, other people provide your electricity, other people do all this shit, and you never meet them. Even the people that make your food, other people make your food, and you treat them like garbage because you're a prick, right? So if you're an asshole, like we've developed this entire society that even lets assholes exist. But in a post-apocalyptic world where you need to work socially with other people and you need to work together, you need to talk to other people, you need to be nice to other people, you need to be liked by other people, you need to be a cohesive society that works together and talks to each other and sees each other on a daily basis. If you're an asshole, you will get pushed out of the community at some point. They'll figure out a way to get rid of you. You will either assimilate or you will go away. And let's face it, there's a lot of people who are straight up assholes. And they either need to learn how to not be an asshole or they're going to get sent on a mission to go find some beans in a grocery store, and best of luck to them, but they're not coming back. I mean, that's how it is. And you won't be able to protect your resources because the rest of the community doesn't want to work with you. And then you're going to be the one alone in your house with your fence around your yard, and you're going to twist your ankle and starve to death. Or you're going to get an infected cut or an abscess in your tooth, and it's going to get infected. You're going to get infection in your blood, and you're going to die. That's it. In a post-apocalyptic world, if you are alone, you are dead. You're not going to survive for very long. A couple of years, tops, you're not going to survive for very long. You don't have the skills to do it. If any women would survive at all. See, if any women would survive at all. Yeah. And that goes back to the, if you're an asshole, you will probably die. Because the rest of society doesn't want to work with you. It could be an argument that women are smarter than men to be. And it was all an extension of that separation of power, separation of duty, separation of roles. You know, you specialize into a role. Like, hey, I can carry the lumber. It's fine. I got this. I'll carry the lumber. Like, my wife's not going to carry the like, she doesn't carry the backpacks when we go hiking. I'm the one who carries the food and water. She carries the maps and other stuff in her bag. My bag's heavier. Her bag's lighter. That's how we split shit up. But I can middle class or higher white women. There goes 90% or more of middle class and higher white men as well. Hot shot. That is 90% of middle class and higher white people in general. They're not going to make it. And also people who think they're preppers who have a bunch of resources. That's not going to make them safe because that just makes them a target. Because guess who knows that they have resources and that they're a prepper? Literally everybody, because you don't shut up about it. Everybody knows you have 500 pounds of beans. Everybody knows you have 500 pounds of rice. Everybody knows you have guns and bullets. That makes you a target. That doesn't make you safe. That makes you a fucking target. Men get along with each other in general, but that doesn't mean no. That doesn't mean they're not assholes. We put up with a lot of shit because we can and we want to. But you know plenty of assholes. I know plenty of assholes. You know plenty of people you would not want to deal with. You might have to deal with them. I mean, guys are... We're very... I need to get fresh. I need to get... All right, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to turn on my sponsor. I'll be right back in 60 seconds.
Is your bar looking a little ordinary? Is it lacking something awesome? Well, head out to your local liquor store and pick up something extraordinary. Grab a bottle of Old Humble Straight Whiskey or Old Humble Special Reserve. They're clean, smooth, easy drinking whiskeys that taste the way whiskey should taste. From humble beginnings to an extraordinary finish, Old Humble whiskeys are what your bar needs today. Walk tall, be awesome, and drink humble. Old Humble Straight Whiskey and Old Humble Special Reserve. Get yours today.
I did not make it back in time. I came close. I tried. I don't think I lost that much. So anyway, yeah, guys, we get along with everybody. Well, I mean, we can't. We put up with a lot of shit. We put up with a lot of shit from a lot of shitty people. Because that's how we have been socialized from a very young age through athletics, through um, through athletics, through sports, through uh, through just general socialization of males to put up with a lot of shit. Even in the military. In the military, you got to put up with a lot of assholes. You got to deal with a lot of shit in the military. Guys from different backgrounds. Organized sports is similar. You got guys from different backgrounds, different socioeconomic backgrounds, different racial backgrounds, different social backgrounds, different everything. And you've got to learn how to work with the guy next to you. You got to learn how to work with your fellow linemen. You got to learn how to work with you got to learn how to work with your teammates. And girls do the same thing. They're socialized in a different way. They put up with a lot of shit. They socialize them. They socialize girls. We society socializes girls, and that would be an interesting thing to explore. How we socialize men and women differently from an early age. I don't even know how I would tackle something like that. But yeah, uh, girls work in they work in teams differently. Girls work collaboratively, I think, is what I'm trying to say, in a way that guys don't. Girls will work collaboratively where they'll all come together and they'll get on the same wavelength to find a goal, and they'll work towards that goal. But the goal isn't necessarily defined. The way guys work on a team is we have a specific goal, a defined goal, and we work together to accomplish that goal. Those are two key different socialization metrics for guys and girls. Guys generally have a specific goal that we work towards, and we work as a team towards that goal. Capture the flag, score the point, win the game, championship, sales goal, whatever it is. Women work towards an unspecified goal, and they work together collaboratively to determine what that goal is going to be. And if you've ever worked with a team of women or had women on your team, you notice that. You may not be able to put it into words, but you'll notice it. That we're trying to figure out what it is that we're going to do, and they're not so much worried about what it is that they're going to do, but how they're going to go about doing it. And you, as the guy, you're sitting there, but what are we going to do? What are we going to do, though? But what are we going to do? And they're like, it doesn't matter. This is how we're going to do it, and we're going to get there. And ultimately, they get to the same point, but they get there in a very different way. And it's also evident to some extent, and the difference between men and women's sports, gymnastics. When you think of a women's sport specifically, and I know guys do gymnastics too, but women's gymnastics, synchronized swimming, um, things like that are thought of as women's sports. Figure skating. There's not a goal to attain. There's not a number of points. You're not trying to outscore the opponent. You're not trying to overcome an obstacle necessarily. You're trying to figure out the best way to do a thing, and then you do it the best way you can. Does that make sense? It's a different type of socialization. It's a different type of expectation. Um, and guys can do the thing, and girls can do the other thing. We see women play soccer and volleyball, and it's not a can or can't. It's a socialization thing. Um, and to that extent, guys have been doing this for centuries. Girls have been doing this for centuries. It's not necessarily a genetic thing. It's a socialization. That's how we do things. We're socialized to do it that way. But women can also be socialized to score the point, achieve the goal. Here's A, B, C. Go be an A-type personality. You have, stand on a pile of decapitated opponents. For every opponent you stand upon, you're closer to your goal. Which is how I visualize getting my MBA, by the way. Statistics class. Like there's 48 people in this class. I need to outwork 46 of them in order to be in the top 3 of the class so that I can get an A, because there was only going to be 3 A's. But that's socialization. That's social construct. That's not genetics. That's not genetics is lifting heavy objects. Socialization is carrying that object to this specific point versus what's the best way to build a house. Because the best way to build a house may not be carrying this heavy load to that certain point to make the thing. There may be a better way to build a house, and it may be right here. And that women are better. Women are better on committees than men. Men are better on teams than women. Is that a safe statement to make? Is that fair? Women are better on committees. Men are better on teams. I think that's an accurate statement, but I'd be willing to revise that and make it better, because there's probably a better way to describe that. But in shorthand, where you have a committee, a group assignment, so to speak, because there's 2 different types of group assignments. There's the team assignment and the committee assignment. When you come to group assignments, I think women are better on committees and men are better on teams. I think that's a fair statement. I think. But again, well worth the discussion to think about and talk about. Where else are we? Good 40% of men. Women read people better than we do, but many women never learned how to adjust because just handed everything in the first 20. Oh, fuck, that's fucking bullshit. Dude, you're showing your misogyny. Yeah, 3 sisters. Girls hate girls in a way that I've never. That is true. I'm willing to get behind a statement like that. Girls can hate other girls in a way that guys don't do. They'll make snap judgments in ways that guys don't necessarily. Again, not universal, but yeah, they'll make judgments about people and then just act on, because like you said, they read people better than men. They think they read people better than men, and they'll make judgments based on that initial reading. That's an interesting observation. It's an interesting thought. I'd like to dig into that a little bit more at some point, but not right now. Women make great team players in mixed company. Yeah. When you have a room full of women, no, that's not true. God, you're like close to right on half of what you say. And then you say something dumb like it's a disaster when it's a room full of women. That's not true. It can be. They have a whole department. They have a whole department called HR. Jesus. um, you're discussing different sports. Uh, don't think it's a guy girl thing. I don't know. I mean, like that's how that's how we are socialized as kids. We played baseball, we played football, we played soccer, we played uh that's how we were socialized. You know, we were pushed into sports at a very young age from 5. From the age 5, we were put into t-ball and progressed through or soccer or pee-wee football from the age of 5, in some cases younger than that. I mean, those are just different sports, but how else were guys socialized? You know, we weren't socialized by being put in a room and learning how to cook. We weren't socialized by sitting in a room and knitting. We weren't socialized by sitting in a room and sewing up clothes and shit like that. We weren't socialized by gardening. That's not how men were socialized. Men were socialized because they gave us a ball and they said, "There's the field and the end zone's on that side. Go get it. Figure out how to get there. There's several boys who want to stop you from getting there. Good luck." I'm sure you're old enough to have played the game Smear the Queer. It's not called that anymore. I don't know what they call it now. Yeah, let me ask my son if he's still up. Come on, where's my boy? Uh, Joseph. Where are they at? There. Call the game where you have one kid with the football and everyone tries to tackle him. One of them's probably awake. It's only midnight, right? Yeah. Let's find out what they call the game. See, we called it Smear the Queer. And I know that's impolitic. It's impolite now. It's not called that anymore. Which is why I didn't ask him because my sons probably have no idea what Smear the Queer is. And don't call it that anymore, kids. It's rude. Did I mention you can buy my whiskey online? There's the link right up there, pinned in comments. Whiskey online, delivered to your door, free shipping, and any purchase of 2 bottles. Use discount code MAKE-IT2. Make it 2, the numeral 2. Come on, kids, answer the damn. All right, find out what it is. I'll find out what it is in a little while. We'll come back to it. Closely underrating the impact genetics has on. No, I'm not. There's no genetic code. There's no genetic code for playing sports. There's no genetic code for lifting heavy objects. There's no genetic code for swinging a hammer. There's none of that. You learn how to swing a hammer. You learn how to lift heavy loads. You are pointed in the direction of a thing and said, go do that. There's no genetic code for holding a gun. There's no genetic code for any of that shit. That's socialization. That's all socialization. You're overestimating genetics. You're assigning to genetics things that don't exist. There's no gene for uh there's probably a gene for peeing. No, in fact there's no gene for peeing standing up. There's no such thing as a gene for peeing standing up. That is a behavior. That is a learned behavior. You can pee sitting down just as much as you can pee standing up. There's no gene that requires you to stand up when you pee. Like there's a gene for the color of your eyes, or a gene for the length of your arms. There's no gene for that, for standing up when you pee. Standing up when you pee is a learned behavior. That is a learned behavior. There's no reason other than that's how you were taught to do it for you to stand up to pee. You can sit down and pee just like anybody else. In fact, sitting down and peeing is probably better for you because then you can read and take your sweet damn time on the toilet. Who doesn't want to take sweet damn time? So there, yeah. The fact that being male makes men want to sleep with women is a massive Being male doesn't make you want to sleep with women. Being straight makes you want to sleep with women. Does that mean lesbians are male? That's the dumbest fucking statement. That you are making remarkably dumb statements. There's at least 3 statements that I've read from you that are the dumbest fucking statements I've read all night. Being male doesn't make men want to sleep with women because lesbians want to sleep with women too, and lesbians aren't male. That's wrong. That is an incorrect. That is a factually wrong statement. Do I even know the meaning of the term misogyny? Yes, my friend, I do. Thank you very much. Girls are part of the same sports at a very young age. Not all the same sports. I mean, they're different sports. Girls don't play baseball; they play softball. Girls can play soccer. They're not. It has. Girls playing sports at a young age is a recent phenomenon. A recent phenomenon in the last 25 years. There was a time when girls were absolutely not only were they discouraged from playing sports, they were prevented from playing sports. They were actively blocked from participating in sports. So don't shovel this bullshit out that girls are part of the same sports. That's a very recent phenomenon. That is a recent phenomenon within the last 2 generations, within the last 25 to 30 years. Don't act like that's how it's always been. It's not how it's always been. My mother, within my lifetime, within her lifetime, was not encouraged to play volleyball, was not encouraged to play softball, was not encouraged to play lacrosse, was not encouraged to play field hockey. The only sport available to her when she was a kid was swimming. And that wasn't even competitive. That wasn't even a competitive sport. She wasn't allowed to compete in sports when she was a kid. She was allowed to swim as a phys ed activity, but she was not allowed to compete in interscholastic events. So don't give me this bullshit that girls are part of the same sports as guys. They have never, not never, for a significant portion of our history, that the girls being encouraged and allowed in and encouraged in sports is a recent phenomenon, an extremely recent phenomenon. I mean, there are people alive today who were excluded from the Boston Marathon. The first woman to run the Boston Marathon is still alive today. There are first women athletes in sports alive today. First women athletes in so many sports that were just default from it. Men participated in these sports since forever. Forever. And it was thought that women were incapable of running a marathon, that they did not have the physical ability. Their genetics were deficient. They couldn't do it. Women are as good as men at long distance events. And when the events get long, the longer the events get, the better women become. So all of that bullshit is bullshit. It's just untrue. Untrue. Once they get a choice, they make different choices. But as girls get, as kids get away, boys and girls, once they get a choice, but do boys and girls make that choice, or do the parents make the choice for them? Yeah. Do boys and girls make that choice, or do parents make the choice for them? Because I can tell you, I'm a parent of 3 boys, and I've made the choice on their behalf as to what sports that they go into. I ain't got the time for some of them. I just ain't got the fucking time. So, not sure I know what that game. No, it's the game where it's the football. You get the football, right? And then you just run around and try and tackle the guy with the football. One of my sons just said, "Boys being idiots." But that was that's the thing. It's played in usually a backyard. You're not on a football field, but you have the ball. You run around and you try to tackle the guy with the ball. Kill the man with the ball. That's what that was the other. That's what we called it when we learned that smear the queer was the bad words. Kill the man with the ball. Kill the man with the ball. The man with the ball. Kill the man with the ball. Does that sound familiar? That's what we did, and we'd have fun. It was there wasn't like 20 people out there doing it. You can't evade 20 people for very long, but it'd be like 5 of us. When you play football and you have the full-time QB and the 2 players on each team, the 5 of you playing ball, whatever, and you play football for a while, and okay, that's fun. That fence post is the goal line. That fence post is the goal line. The fence is out of bounds, and that tree's out of bounds. You go past the tree, you're out of bounds. Okay. Everybody accepts it, and then you play. You're like a little narrow field that's like 15 feet wide and like 30 feet long. And then you play a couple, and you're like, "This is boring. This sucks. Smear the queer." And you throw the ball at your friend, and then you go and just smack him, just crush him, plow him into the ground. And he's sitting there. He's out of breath. He's like, "Good one." And then he like shoves the ball in your chest. He says, "You got it now." And then you're like, "Oh crap!" And you got to run. It was good times. I can't be the only person who's played this game. Of course, I'm almost like I'm 48 years old. I might be the only person who's ever played this game. I might be. I very well might be. Cheers, Steve Erpenbeck. Welcome to the party, my man. Glad to have you. My parents didn't give us gender-specific toys when we were young. So what I did, I went out and made sticks and together. Well, yeah, but I think gender-specific toys, like truly, the only gender-specific toys that I can think of are like dildos and pocket pussies, like, and those aren't kids' toys. But yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you on that. My kids, my boys, they like stuffed animals, but not dolls. And there's a difference between the two. Like my sons never wanted to play with a dolly, but they love stuffed bears and stuffed animals and stuffed dogs and stuff. My youngest, he's 12. He still has a menagerie of stuffed animals. My oldest, 17. Both of my oldest, both of my 17-year-olds, they have a menagerie of stuffed animals. Uh, Dogs and bears and dragons and puppies and all kinds of shit, all kinds of stuffed animals, but not a single, none of them you would describe as dolls. Never once wanted an easy bake oven, never once wanted a kitchen island, never once wanted anything like that. None of it. They just weren't interested. They weren't interested. I don't know how much of that's genetics, how much of that was us. I don't know. But they were never interested in any of that. Never. Of course, one of them was never interested in dragons. The other one was. It wasn't genetics that had him interested in dragons. Personal preference. He saw a thing. He liked dragons. He said, there's dragons. Boys having guns and girls having guns. I mean, yeah. I mean, that's a legit. The aggression the boys show with weapons and things like that. Although I can tell you this, my niece, she was. Of course, this is all fucking anecdotal. This isn't like scientific studies or anything. But boy, I tell you what, my niece with a goddamn sword, she would beat the piss out of you. She would take any stick, any tube, any rolled up anything. She'd take that thing, she'd spin around, she'd whack, she'd just go right the fuck at you. she would absolutely crush when it came to she didn't do guns necessarily, but she would absolutely. Hold on, I gotta do this thing. She wouldn't do guns, but she would absolutely do swords and knives and sticks. But see, guns on TV were cool. And who was holding guns on TV? Who were the people holding guns on TV? It wasn't Annie Oakley that you were emulating. Was it now? There's genetics for strength, but not genetics for sports. There is no gene that makes you kick a ball. That is not testosterone showing through. That is not aggression. There's so many sports that are not aggression. Archery is not an aggression sport. Shooting is not an aggression sport. That's a targeting sport. Jesus, the first Olympics were Warcraft based sports. That's not all the sports, and that's not aggression necessarily. That's skill. A lot of sports are skills. A lot of sports we see today. I mean, curling is not aggression. It's competitive, but it's not aggressive. And women are as good at curling as men. There's not genetics for sports. There's genetics for strength, yes, but not for sports. There's no gene that makes you kick a ball. There's genes that give you strength in your legs, but there's no gene that is socialization. That is an outlet for whatever energy you have and whatever strength you have. Women can be taught the same thing. That is false. You are mixing up genetics and socialization. You're mixing up, conflating nurture and nature. Nature and nurture are not the same thing. And nature says you have longer arms. Nurture says you will use that longer arm to throw a baseball 15% faster than the next guy. There's no gene that makes you a baseball player. You can use that same genetics to be a javelin thrower. You can use that same genetics to be I don't know, somebody who types from an extra inch away. You can use those genetics for plenty of reasons other than sports. But the genetics will define your musculature and skeletal range and physical strength and mobility, but the socialization tells you what to do with it. I mean, the reason Akeem Olajuwon played basketball was because he was taken out of Nigeria and brought to America and taught how to play basketball. He was socialized to play basketball. He was a fucking volleyball player in Nigeria. He wasn't a basketball player in Nigeria. He's a 6'11" specimen of humanity. His genetics said this is who you are, and he was raised playing volleyball. He was not raised playing basketball. He was taught to play basketball. He does not have a genetic predisposition for basketball. He has a genetic predisposition to be physically better than you and me. But he does not have a genetic disposition to play basketball. That is false. There's no basketball gene. That's not how people are made. God, or whoever our creator is, didn't stitch together our DNA and go, oh, this one's going to play baseball. That's not how it works. That's when human beings were formed on the Sahara and our genetic goop that made us who we are, separated from the other sapiens and the other great apes. Baseball didn't exist. Football didn't exist. Soccer didn't exist. Sport didn't exist. The only sport that existed was running from fucking lions. That's not in our genetics. Our genetics has no traces whatsoever of building roads in modern sports. Modern sports were invented thousands, tens of thousands of years after we were even created. Modern sports are a creation of us. We are not a creation of modern sports. That's nonsense. Silliness. All right, let's see what the kids say. For those who aren't familiar, oh, Jesus Christ, he actually looked it up. For those who aren't familiar, Smear the Queer is a playground game in which, it says it right there. He sent me this. He looked it up, in which one person has to keep a ball away from the rest of the group who tries to tackle them, in sort of like a cross between reverse tag and gridiron rugby football. Yeah, I know what we when I wanted to know wanted to know what y'all called it today. These fucking kids are useless. Yes, being a male makes you. No, that's not true. There are plenty of males that don't want to sleep with women. Are you telling me gay men aren't male? That's untrue. That is an untrue statement. That is an untrue statement. That is empirically false. Being male does not make you want to sleep with women. Being male makes you have a penis. That's all. That is incorrect. You have a very small exception of the rule, and it's not a very small. It's a significant. It's a significant portion of the population. Hell, even men who are straight who don't have high sex drives don't want to sleep with women. They do it out of obligation. They just don't want to. There's plenty of people who are asexual who are like, yeah, I'm a guy, but I don't want to fuck everything. Women are the same way. They don't want to fuck everything. That's an untrue statement. That is an absolutely false statement. But nice try, though. Nice try. These sports existed You act like any of these sports existed 100 years ago. Men got some advantages for a few generations. The vast majority of human history, we've just worked and suffered. The vast majority of human history, everybody worked and suffered. The vast majority of human history was a brutal, dangerous, near starvation existence. The vast majority of human history for 23,000 years. I mean, if modern human beings like us have existed for 25,000 years, civilization has existed for 6,000 years. So for 19,000 years, we were nomadic people. We finally settled down and started making cities 6,000 years ago. Of those 6,000 years, for about 4,500 or so of those years, we were constantly going through a cycle of abundance and starvation, abundance and starvation, abundance and starvation. We would make enough food to sustain our population. We would have more people who could go out and make more farms, who could make more food, who could sustain the population, who could make more people, who could make more farms, who could sustain the population. But then there'd be a blight, the population get wiped out, and we'd reset and keep going and keep going and keep going. It was a cyclical nature of things. It wasn't until the creation of the steam engine and the ability to mechanize food production that we were able to produce more food than people. And that was in the 1600s. So for the vast majority of human civilization, it was a brutal, brutal existence where we were on the knife's edge of ceasing to exist. We were on the knife's edge of vanishing entirely. And several times we came down really close, within a few hundred human beings of extinction. For the vast majority of human civilization. Vast majority. 15, 16, 19,000 out of 25. And even after civilization was established, 4,500 out of 6,000 years. We were still on the cyclical nature of being on the knife's edge of even existing, even continuing to be. But then we had a technological breakthrough. And for the last 500 years or so, 400, let's say 400 years. Last 400 years or so, we have been able to thrive. For the first time in human history, been able to thrive. Thrive. Where we've had more food than we know what to do with. We have more leisure time than we know what to do with. We have more abundance than we know what to do with. In just the last 400 years. And in this last 400 years, we've developed sport. I mean, we've had games forever. The Game of Kings, Uruk, the Game of Kings and cups, and the board that has the 6 on one side, the 4 on the other, and a little bridge in the middle. We've had that. We've had games. We've had games forever. But sport, competitive games, organized competition that was an analog to something else. That's a relatively modern. And that's not to say the tribes wouldn't come together in prehistory and play games together, because we have some evidence of that in the Americas too. But organized sport, just for recreation, organized sport purely for recreation, is a relatively modern, in the history of humanity, a relatively modern event in the last couple hundred years. Well, even in the Americas, they would have organized sport, but it wasn't for pure recreation. At least as far as we know. Organized sport, but it wasn't for pure recreation. It was a proxy for war in some cases. But that's not to say that it wasn't always a proxy for war. It might have been pure recreation in some occasions. But for pure recreation, yeah, that's a relatively modern thing. Children get to make choices. When children get to make choices, sometimes they do. But again, it's the question of how much of those choices are influenced by their parents. Children don't live in a vacuum. How much of their choices are influenced by their parents? Children don't get, when children finally get to make choices about the clothes that they wear, they've been being dressed by their parents for years. When kids finally get to choose what kind of clothes they want to wear, they're 3 years old. They've been dressed by their parents for 3 years. You've taught him what to wear. You've taught her what to wear for 3 years before she ever gets a chance to pick out her own clothes, before he ever gets a chance to pick out her own clothes. When children get a choice to make their clothes, they make different choices. Yeah, because we treat them differently for 3 years until they finally make a choice of their own. How long does it take you to learn a thing? Less than 3 years? When you finally get to choose at the office for the first time, do you choose the thing that they've taught you what to choose for the last 6 months? How long does it take you to finally to assimilate? How long does it take you to be socialized? How long does it take you to make the choices that the management wants to give you and wants you to make? It's less than 3 years. I guarantee that. Did flag football for one summer. Never played more football. I never cared for it. Tater Dom's in the house. What's up, Tater Dom? It has been a while. It's been 3 fucking weeks. And I'm back, baby. I'm back and I'm spitting fire. Woo! Shit. 12:15. I got to wrap this up in about 45 minutes. Wake up, little Susie. Wake up. Oh, shit. What'd I just do? Get back. Live. Okay. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of socialization that happens that we don't even know. We don't even see it. Yeah, I mean, an example. An example. When I was reading the book Tip of the Spear, there was a guy. He was a missionary in South America, and he did his thing as a missionary in South America. And he goes back to the Americas or North America, and he comes back to South America. He's being a missionary. They built it's a cool book. It's a really cool book. They built a airfield and everything, so they can bring an ultralight in there and bring supplies and all this stuff. And he's in a meeting. Tribal elders are in their little meeting. They're having a discussion about things, and they're trying to make a decision about a very important thing. And he's sitting in the back. He's just leaning back in his chair, just relaxing, listening to them, handle the affairs of their tribe and do what they do. And they're coming to this. They're having a discussion about something, and someone's making a really important point, and he sees something out of the corner of his eye, and he just glances over and he sees it, and he goes, ugh, and he shakes his head or something like, well, it was like a pig doing something, or something. He sees it and he shakes his head in disgust at that thing that he looked at over here. But while the guy on the dais was making his point, he saw the missionary, who was like their guide, their leader, their authority figure, whatever, their parent, if you would. He wasn't even like reacting to what the guy was saying, but he saw that and he's like, ugh. And as he's making his point, he sees him react to what's going on over here, and he changes his attitude and opinion about what he was talking about, like in mid sentence. And this is when the guy realizes that his presence was affecting, even his presence as a spectator was affecting the events that were happening. The Schrodinger cat type of thing. If you observe it, you're affecting the outcome. And he realized that at that moment, that as an observer, he was affecting the outcome. And I'm very conscious of this as a parent when I'm involved in youth groups or study groups at church or youth-driven events or things like that. When they're supposed to be youth-led and adult-guided, you've got to be very careful as an adult of how your presence affects the youth leadership, because your even being there affects how they act and what they do. Because they don't want to say things that offend you. They don't want to say things that you don't approve of. They don't want to say things that upset you. They don't want to do things that make you as a parent disapprove of their decisions as the kid. So it doesn't matter what kind of freedoms you give them. Your presence affects their decision making, even if it's subconscious, even if it's a light touch, even if it's a very slight affectation. It's there. It's a real thing. This is my last drink, by the way. I think this is 4 in 2 hours, and I think this is a good time to begin preparations to wrap up the show. but it's a real thing, and we don't realize, like, we raise them a certain way, and then we give them, like, go make your decisions. Like, their decisions aren't in a vacuum. Their decisions are predicated on, in some cases 18 years of conditioning, in some cases 3 years of conditioning, in some cases 10 years of conditioning, whatever it is. Like, when you give them the keys to the car for the first time, they're not making decisions on the road in a vacuum. They're making decisions on the road that have been influenced by you driving them around for 16, 17, 18 years. They don't go to college in a vacuum. They go to colleges that you help them pick. They go to colleges that you help them decide. They go to colleges that they've chosen based on values that you've instilled in them. They're not existing in a vacuum. You're not raising kids to make decisions that are completely unique and unusual. They're not tabula rasas that they just see a thing and they go, "Oh, well, I have a 50-50 choice. Flip a coin. Let's see what I got." They have 18 years of conditioning behind them. 18 years of conditioning that tells them whether or not they like blonde or brunettes. 18 years of conditioning when they turn 18 and become adults. 18 years of conditioning that tells them whether or not they like big butts or small butts. They like 18 years of conditioning that tells them whether they like the color blue or the color red. You may think you haven't influenced those decisions, but you've influenced them their entire life. You've influenced their appreciation of sci-fi or Harry Potter or magic, dragons or music or whatever it is. You've influenced those decisions, even if you didn't mean to. You've taught them how to treat their girlfriends. You've taught them how to treat their wives. You've taught them how to treat their boyfriends and girlfriends and brothers and sisters and best friends and worst friends. You've taught them how to treat all those people around them for 18 years before they leave the house as adults for the first time and go to college. You may not realize it, but you've done it. You've done it. That's not genetics. That's conditioning. That's social that's social conditioning. That's raising them up. That's teaching them how to be people. You've done that all their life. That's what you've done. That person walking out of that house, going off to college for the first time, that person leaving, you've created that person. You've had the most significant voice in that person's life. That person comes home to your house. That person sees you behave. That person listens to your voice. That person hears what you say and how you treat your spouse, how you treat your girlfriend, how you treat the kids, how you treat your siblings, how you treat his siblings, how you treat her siblings. That person is listened. You've raised that. You've conditioned that person his entire life, her entire life. And when that kid hates cats, that's you. When that kid hates Brussels sprouts, that's you. And good job, by the way, because Brussels sprouts are fucking terrible. When that kid drives too fast on the freeway, that's you. When that kid cuts somebody off and flips them off, that's you. When that kid scratches a car and doesn't leave his phone number, that's you. You taught him that. You taught them that. You taught them all of that shit. When that kid starts making choices for their own, those choices are choices that you influence, that you taught them. Yeah, boys and girls make different choices. Yeah, they do. When they're given the opportunity to finally make choices for themselves, they make different choices. Because you treat them differently when they're babies. You dress them differently. Boys get blue, girls get pink. Boys cry, and you're like, you'll be all right. Come on, kid, toughen up. Girls cry, you pick them up, pat them on the back. Oh, poor baby. You treat them differently when they're babies. You treat them differently when they're babies. You treat them differently when they're infants. You treat them differently when they're toddlers. You treat them differently and when you treat them differently, they grow up and they make different decisions. And I'm not saying it's wrong to treat them differently. I'm not saying it's right to treat them differently. I'm saying you do. We do this. We do. We treat them differently. I know this from my nieces and nephews. My nieces and nephews. Man, my nephew was 8 years old and a monster. He was big. He was a big kid. Easy to forget that he was 8. You roughhouse with an 8-year-old when you think he's 12? Because he looks like a 12-year-old? Yeah. You can hurt him. No, I didn't hurt my nephew. I didn't hurt my nephew. We got a little rough a few times. We wrestled. He was he was a strong kid. But I'm not saying he was fine. We wrestle. We throw each other around. We didn't throw each other around. Talking airplanes and wrestling and stuff like that. But you gotta remind yourself that sometimes big kids are still kids. 12-year-old kids, when you're wrestling, you gotta watch yourself. If they're a big 12-year-old, shit, you gotta watch yourself because that boy will put you on your back. No shit, yeah. Think of Shaquille O'Neal when he was 14. Shaquille O'Neal when he was 14 was 6 foot tall. When he was 14, he was bigger than you. He's certainly bigger than me. Shaquille O'Neal when he was 14, he was bigger than most grown adult men. You got to remind yourself sometimes that your nephews and nieces, yeah, they're kids because they're big fucking kids. But Shaquille O'Neal put you on your fucking ass. And not everybody Shaquille O'Neal, obviously. Obviously. Is archery or even shooting what? Catch that up. Where'd we go? Is archery or shooting, where was that? Sports that men gravitate, is archery or shooting sports that men gravitate towards? I think that all of those sports used to be exclusive to men, but women archers and women shooters are just as prolific as men in modern Olympics. In modern Olympics, not in obviously in classic Olympics, women were excluded, but men want to physically dominate each other. Men, yeah, they do, and that's how. Well, men of a certain age want to physically dominate each other. My sons don't want to physically dominate. They're not. That's not how they work. Not the same way I work. My sons are much more collaborative than I was when I was a kid, which is an interesting. Curling isn't a sport. I think you might be right. It's a skill. It's definitely a skill. Learning to play a sport is different than the desire to compete physically. A desire to compete is endemic among all humans. I think all humans want to compete, even women. But it manifests itself in different ways, partly because we socialize it in different ways. We tell guys to compete. We don't tell girls to compete. We tell girls to collaborate. We tell guys to compete. And guys form teams and accomplish a goal. We form teams and compete against other guys full of teams, and we accomplish a goal. But if we tell girls to do the same thing, guess what they do? They form teams and they compete and they go against a goal. Girls want to compete against guys as much as guys want to compete against guys. Let me repeat that. Girls want to compete against guys as much as guys want to compete against guys. Girls want to accomplish the goal as much as guys want to accomplish the goal. And if you segregate the girls from the girls get together and they're like, let's beat the fucking guys. Let's show them we can do what we can do. Girls are just as capable. They're not as physical. They're not necessarily as physically capable. Although anecdotally, I can definitely cherry pick 20 girls that can be physical specimens above and beyond 20 guys. But they're just as capable of forming teams to accomplish a goal as guys are, depending on the goal. I mean, if the goal is to beat those guys, you can obviously find a team of guys that are physically superior to girls. But that's not to say, those are outliers. I mean, you can find a men's baseball team and a women's baseball team. And, if you run a league of a co-ed league, where the league is co-ed, but the teams are gender specific, guarantee over 1,000 iterations, you'd be damn close to 50-50. Damn close to 50-50. Hell, over 100 iterations, you'd be damn close to 50-50. Damn close. Anyway, my Akeem argument does not support your point. There's no genetic predisposition to basketball. It doesn't exist. There's no genetic basketball gene. It doesn't exist. Akeem was a volleyball player in Nigeria and taught to play basketball in the United States. That your argument is that he was genetically predisposed to play basketball. He was not. He was neither genetically predisposed to play basketball nor volleyball. He was taught to play one or the other. In fact, it might have been soccer. He might have been pulled off. I thought he was pulled off a volleyball court. Let me ask Siri real quick. Hey Siri, what sport did Akeem Olajuwon play in Nigeria? Akeem Olajuwon played famous African Americans. Akeem Olajuwon. I thought it was volleyball. I could be wrong. Let's see what it says. He was a goalkeeper and excelled in team handball. So I am entirely wrong. He was a goalkeeper in soccer and excelled in handball, which was handball. He didn't play basketball until the age of 15, since he was around 6'9". Blah, blah, blah. Where he first played basketball his senior year. Blah, blah, blah. When he was 17, he was coached by Richard Mills. 79, the team won third place. Oh, wow. His history is entirely different than the legend taught at University of Houston. Immigrated from Nigeria to the United States, where he enrolled in the University of Houston. Oh, my God. They called... This is fucking horrifying. They refer to U of H as UOH. What the fuck? It's UH. That's horrifying. Offered him a place where he could practice his passion of basketball. He played basketball under Coach Guy Lewis. Blah, blah, blah. Championship caliber center. So there you go. Handball and soccer. Not volleyball at all. And at U of H, we were told, yes, Hakeem Olajuwon was a volleyball player. And he was blah, 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 blah. Anyway, I guess they just didn't know what handball was. And it was easier to say volleyball than handball. But no, your argument is that he was genetically predisposed to play basketball or whatever sport that he played. He was not genetically predisposed to play any of those fucking sports. He was genetically gifted as a physical specimen and was able to be socially trained, behaviorally trained to play a specific sport. Basketball. On a championship caliber team. Several championship caliber teams at that. Because as you explained, he was already a competitive athlete, which was the point. But he wasn't genetically predisposed to play a specific sport. Competitively trained athlete, that means nothing. He was not genetically predisposed to be a competitively trained athlete. He was genetically disposed to have genetic gifts that made him a better athlete, but there was no reason for him to be an athlete other than the fact that that's what he was encouraged to do as a kid. Play sports. You're good at it. Go play sports. You're tall. Be a basketball player. I mean, how many fucking kids did you know when you were a kid that were 6 feet tall who played basketball? My hunch is All of them. Every fucking kid you knew who was 6 feet tall played basketball. Because guess what 6 foot tall kids do? Play basketball. That's what they do. 6 foot tall girls play volleyball. How many times have you seen a girl who was 6 foot tall or more? And the first thought that goes through your mind was, where did you play volleyball? I guarantee if you see a girl who is 6 foot or taller, there's two things that she possibly did in college: volleyball, basketball. Two options. As a girl who's 6 foot tall, not because she was genetically predisposed, she didn't have a basketball gene in her body, she didn't have a volleyball gene in her body, any more than a 6 foot tall man has a volleyball gene in his body. There's no such thing as volleyball in the African Sahara, as human beings are leaving Africa for the first time, running away from saber-toothed tigers, carrying volleyballs? No, that didn't happen. We didn't go looking around, traveling across the Sahara, going up towards the Red Sea, going across the Sinai Peninsula, carrying a volleyball net on our back, looking for a fucking place to go find the best goddamn beach volleyball site. We didn't do that. That's not what human beings did. We went and looked for the best goddamn site to find food. We followed the buffaloes. We followed the bison. We followed the herds of elk and deer and ibises and whatever the fuck else we followed. We went and followed a field of grains, and we went to the next field of grains, and the next field of grains, and the next field of grains. We didn't go looking for the best goddamn beach volleyball courses to go find. We certainly weren't looking for the best basketball courts. That's not what we did when we left Africa. We weren't looking for football fields. We weren't looking for soccer pitches. We weren't looking for basketball. We weren't looking for baseball fields. We might have been looking for baseball fields because baseball was the best fucking thing. But we were looking for food. There's no volleyball gene. There's no baseball gene. There's no football gene. There's no lacrosse gene. That doesn't exist. That is not how people are wired. We learned those behaviors, and we learned those behaviors in the last 200 years. That's how it is. We do not have a volleyball gene. We do not have a football gene. We do not have a kill the man with the ball gene, or a smear the queer gene, or a how high can you jump gene. We have how do you synthesize sugar into energy genes. We have slow twitch muscles and fast twitch muscle genes. We have genes that we choose to adapt the expressions of into how fast can you run, how high can you jump, how far can you leap off of this pole, how long can you run fastly? How long can you run fast? Yeah, that's the words. Or how fast can you run long? We ask those two different questions, and those two different questions are questions that we ask in a competitive environment. How fast can you run long, and how long can you run fast? One of them is a question of speed over distance. The other is a question of endurance over time. And we ask those questions like, how fast can you run long? That is a question of moderate lengths, like mile, half mile, 10K, 5K. How even 100 meter, 200 meter, 400 meter. How fast can you run long? Long can be defined as short as 50 meters, 100 meters, 200 meters. How long can you run fast? Now we're talking about marathons. 50 miles, 100 miles, 200 miles. The longest endurance race. How long is the longest endurance race? Hey Siri, how long is the longest endurance race? The longest endurance race in the world is the Mongol Derby, which is 620 miles. That sounds like is that a foot race? Horse race. The Mongol Derby is a horse race. Hey Siri, how long is the longest foot race? Self-Transcendence 3,100-mile race is the world's longest certified foot race. How long can you run fast? Till you give up and quit. How long can you run fast? How much can you do? How little can you do? Those are genetic questions. Like, how hard can you push? Like, do your genes let you do this? How long can you hold your breath? How deep can you dive? How far can you go? Like, we had this discussion around the dinner table a few weeks back. Like, what would it take for humankind to be semi-aquatic? Like, let's say there was a population of people on an island, right? And the food was, you were able to get food. So you couldn't farm. Everything had to be oceanic. You had to dive for your food. So, like, the people who would be best suited for this civilization would be people who could hold their breath the longest. So, if you couldn't hold your breath for more than 30 seconds, you would not be a suitable mate. So, mankind would be semi-aquatic if, like, how you define semi-aquatic. If you define semi-aquatic as able to dive for minutes at a time, not just seconds, but minutes at a time, then you could get more food because you could be underwater, get fish, bring it back. You would be a more successful hunter. You would be able to gather resources better. So over time, this community of humans would specialize towards people who had larger lung capacity, ability to hold their breath longer, ability to more slowly metabolize oxygen, more so that you have higher oxygen saturation rate for a longer amount of time. You're not metabolizing it and turning it into carbon dioxide quickly. You're doing it slowly. So over time, the population would slowly, gradually move towards people who could hold their breath underwater longer. 2 or 3 generations, probably. The people who could gather more resources would father more children, etc., etc. But that doesn't mean you have a swimming gene. That means you have a hold your breath gene, slowly metabolizing oxygen gene, a larger lung capacity gene, ability to do, what you need to do gene. But that doesn't mean you couldn't leave your island and go back to Los Angeles and be an ad executive, right? Anyway, what else? Men don't overwhelmingly want to sleep with women. Men don't overwhelmingly want to sleep with women, and using gay people as a counter. So you're opposed to counter arguments to your stupid argument that being male makes you want to sleep with women. Yeah, okay. Shocking. Shocking that the refutation is unacceptable. You're wrong. Your argument is incorrect, and that is just too bad. You don't have to like it. It's just how it is. If a vast majority don't want to have sex with women, humanity would. Oh, vast majority, and all men are not the same word. Those are 2 different sets of words. Vast majority and all men are 2 different sets of words. Just like vast majority of Tylenol is safe. All Tylenol is safe. Those are two completely separate things. Vast majority of nuclear power plants are perfectly secure. All nuclear power plants are perfectly secure. The vast majority of nuclear warheads are accounted for. All nuclear warheads are accounted for. Vast majority of dogs are perfectly tame and harmless. All dogs are perfectly tame and harmless. You see how these two sentences don't mean the same thing? Well, all of these two sentences, all these pairs of sentences, they don't mean the same thing. They mean different things. They mean very different things. The vast majority of people walking around with guns are perfectly harmless. All people walking around with guns are perfectly harmless. See, both of those things do not mean the same thing, and they are not both true. They are not. They are not both true. So, the vast majority of men and all men, no, that's not true. All men being male, which is what you said, being a man and being male are two different things. Vast majority of men and all men are not the same thing. All men being a man, being male, does not mean sleep with women. Because there are plenty of men who don't sleep with women. So you're wrong. I appreciate you accepting it and acknowledging that you are wrong. Anyway, food isn't parents. My parents were told by three, told by three to fuck off. Food isn't parents. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what that. I don't remember what that attaches to. Um, how to get basketball with genetics? Sometimes I wonder if you just your stuff and make of how to get basketball with genetics. Dude, you're the one saying that there's a fucking sports gene. You're the one who is saying there's a sports gene. Don't put that on me. He was a soccer player. He was a soccer and handball player. Yeah, he was a goalkeeper. I just read that. Yeah. Basketball wasn't. As a 6 foot guy, how do you know basketball wasn't your sport? Were you invited to play basketball? Were you asked to play basketball? Were you told to play basketball? Did you play basketball? Did you suck at it? That's how you know? Yeah? 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 um, I've never thought volleyball for a girl. I think basketball for them too. Yeah. See, unfortunately, volleyball is a women's sport, mostly women's sport. Men play volleyball too. There's men's volleyball, but when you see women, yeah, that is uh, that is one of the many Title IX sports that exist. Um, making over, no, I'm not. I'm not making it up, dude. You were making the argument that there's a sports gene. You were making the argument earlier that there is a sports gene. Don't fucking backtrack on this shit now. Don't act like don't act like you're not trying to say that there's a gene that make men predisposed to want to fucking compete in sports. There's no such gene that makes men want to compete in sports and women want to knit. That's not in existence. That's not a thing that happens. You've said it before, you're saying it again tonight, and it's not true. And I can anecdotally demonstrate it, but I think also like we've got enough genetic information that we're pretty confident that like sports genes don't exist. Genes that regulate our hormones, and those genes create different levels of aggression, competition, assertiveness. No, yeah, I mean, yeah, aggression, competition, assertiveness to an extent, yeah. And society doesn't allow men to just fit fight sportsman. We have genes in our genetic code. I do not buy into the notion that we have genes for aggression, competition, and assertiveness. That is, assertiveness is a behavior, not genetic predisposition. Competition is a behavior, not a genetic predisposition. And competition comes out in both men and women, and it manifests itself in different ways. Aggression shows itself in different ways between men and women. Women can be just as aggressive as men. There's no gene that predisposes women to be aggressive or not aggressive, or men to be aggressive or not aggressive. Socialization says it's okay for men to act aggressive and women to not act aggressive. Socialization says it's okay for women to be competitive or not competitive, and men to be competitive or not competitive. Socialization says men are allowed to be assertive and women have to be submissive. That all three of those things are socialization. Hormones, no. Hormones do not say be aggressive. Be aggressive. Be aggressive. Aggressive. Be aggressive. Hormones no. Hormones don't push that shit. That is that's nonsensical. Hormones do other things, but they don't say be aggressive. Hormones don't say be assertive. Hormones don't say be competitive, because women are just as competitive as men. It manifests itself in different ways. And the way it manifests itself is how it's socialized to teach them to show their aggression, show their competition, show their assertiveness. And they're taught to not be assertive to men. They're taught to not be aggressive towards men. They're taught to not be competitive against men. Because if you're competitive against men, he's not going to want to marry you. If you're aggressive towards him, he's not going to want to marry you. If you're too assertive, he's not going to want to marry you. Let him marry you and then tell him how things are going to be. Don't act like that's not how things are. That's how things are. That is 100% socialization. Making stuff up again. No. You absolutely did say all men. All men want that all men want to have sex with women. Fuck, I can go back and find it. Just scroll all the way up here. Oops. Control F. Men want to have sex with women. I just got to put with women. Oops, let's go back this way. Can you see that on the screen? With the fact that being male, there it is, right there. The fact that being male makes men want to sleep with women. Being male. So if you don't want to sleep with women, you're not male. The fact that you are male. If you call yourself male, you want to sleep with women. The fact that just simply being a man makes you want to sleep with women. Well, I guarantee you, I can make 2 phone calls and get someone on the phone that is male and does not want to sleep with women. And the other phone call would be female who does want to sleep with women. That statement is false. And it was made at 11:43 on July 12th. Don't say you didn't say what you did say, because you did say what I said you said. So don't give me that shit. There's a written record. The fact that being male makes men want to sleep with women. That is not true. That is an untrue statement. Being male, the fact that you are male does not make you want to sleep with women. The fact is, you can be male and want to fuck things that aren't women. Nice try. You are wrong. And no amount of rewriting history of what you said about an hour ago changes that. 100% did not say, oh, yes, you did. Nope. Nice try, though. I love the fact that when things are written, it stays the same. Where were we? Where were we at? Men don't overlove and go to sleep with women. Yeah, we got that. Where was I? I do have to wrap this up. Fuck, it's 1 o'clock, and I need to. Hormones 100% know that high testosterone leads false. 100% did in fact say all. You didn't imply false. I read it incorrectly. False. I just fucking quoted it. I read it straight from what you wrote. Nice try. No. The fact that being male makes us want to sleep with women. Being male makes us want to sleep with women. False. The Greeks have something to say about that. The Romans have something to say about that. The legions of gay men in America and abroad have something to say about that. There are lots of males that have no interest in sleeping with women. None whatsoever. You are wrong. But anyway, I could go for the next 5 minutes about saying that you're wrong, but I'm not going to do that because I got class. What we're going to do is I'm going to wrap this up. Dustin, it's been a pleasure. It's been a ton of fun. Mr. Great Shot, Steve Erpenbeck, I absolutely appreciate everybody coming and joining the party. It's been a fun time. I will be having more stuff from the distillery in the next several weeks. Bear with me. It's hot as fuck in the distillery. I kid you not. It's 98 degrees out there. It's 112 degrees inside the distillery around 3 o'clock. I can't bear it, and I don't want people in there. If I turn on a camera inside the shop, I am a sweaty mess in less than a few minutes. It is an absolute disgusting pile of grossness. But I am working towards the end of August, early September, having a viewer appreciation and giving away a sign of my Old Humble Distilling Company backlit bar sign right there, so you can have that in your home bar. I really do appreciate y'all and your support of the channel, your support of the distillery. Don't forget, pinned up here in comments. Where's it at? Right here it's here on my screen. I don't know where it's at on your screen. Probably down there or somewhere. Pinned in comments is the website where you can order our whiskey online. oldhumbledistilling.com/shop online. You can use a discount code called MAKEIT2 where you get free shipping. $18 off an order of 2 bottles. Any 2 bottles, you can get a straight whiskey, double oak rye, straight whiskey, special reserve bourbon, special reserve double oak rye bourbon, any combination of 2. Hell, you can get 2 bottles of double oak rye and get free shipping to your door. It must be 21, obviously. But you get free shipping. Make it 2. Make it 2 is the code. Do it. Do it. Get a bottle. Get a fucking bottle. Get a bottle today. Get a bottle today. Get a bottle tomorrow. Get a bottle the next day. You don't have to go hunting around for unicorn bottles. You want to find rare, unusual, new, exceptional bottles of bourbon? That's the way to do it right there. You can get another factory bottle of bourbon that has a specialty label that they charge you an extra $30 for. Fine. Go do that. That's the same factory stuff that you've already gotten. But you could get something unusual, new, that you've never tried before. You can get it right there. Free shipping. Make it 2. Buy 2 bottles. 1 for you, 1 for a friend. 1 for you and 1 for you. Screw your friends. Let them buy their own bottles. Have a good night. I appreciate all of y'all. Y'all are awesome. I have a little bit left in here. Be awesome to each other. That is how we grow our gardens and make delicious fruits for everyone to enjoy. Cheers, Tater Dom. I almost missed you there too, buddy. Cheers, buddy. Tater Dom. Cheers to everybody. Have a great night. Be awesome to each other. And remember, may your tomorrows be better than your todays. And always, always, always reach for the stars. Good night. Where's my, there it is. Good night. Where's my fucking production screen? Jeffrey, get the production screen up. Cheers and good night, everybody.